On September 9th, 1921, the death of a young actress named Virginia Rappe triggered one of Hollywood's most infamous scandals. The sensational case not only altered the trajectory of her life, but also brought about the dramatic downfall of Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle, a celebrated comedic genius of the silent film era. This is the story of how a seemingly inconspicuous party unraveled into a media frenzy, a legal battleground, and ultimately making Arbuckle the first film star to be cancelled. This cautionary tale continues to echo through the entertainment industry today. Disclaimer: the following is a reconstruction of the events based on available transcripts, testimonies from both the prosecution and defense, and accounts from those closely involved in the case. While every effort has been made to accurately reflect the known facts, the information remains ambiguous, and certain details are open to interpretation. Labor Day, 1921. The events that led to the trial began harmlessly enough. On September 5th, 1921, Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle, fresh off a series of successful films and a lucrative contract with Paramount Pictures, decided to celebrate Labor Day with friends at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco. While in Los Angeles to have his Pierce Arrow automobile serviced, he accidentally sat on a rag soaked in acid at the garage. The acid burned through his pants and caused second-degree burns on his backside. He was tempted to cancel the trip to San Francisco, but Fishbach would have none of it. His friend Fred Fishbach booked 3 adjoining suites on the 12th floor, rooms 1219, 1220, and 1221. Arbuckle, who had been enjoying one of the most meteoric rises in early Hollywood, was now the highest-paid actor in the world, with a contract that guaranteed him $1 million annually. The guest list at the St. Francis Hotel included several lesser-known figures in Hollywood, such as Virginia Rappe, a young actress with a troubled history, and Maud Delmont, a woman with a notorious reputation for blackmail. Despite prohibition, alcohol flowed freely at the party, setting the stage for the events that would soon follow. At some point during the party, Rappe fell seriously ill. Witnesses would later claim that she complained of intense pain and was vomiting. Arbuckle reportedly had gone to his room to change his clothing, locked the door, went to the bathroom, and found Rappe there in distress. He proceeded to assist her for several minutes before moving her into his bedroom. He then sought assistance from other members of the party. They eventually moved Rappe to another room, 1227, with the help of a hotel manager. Arbuckle asked the manager to call a doctor, but despite their efforts, Rappe's condition did not improve. She stayed at the hotel for 3 days before being transferred to a hospital. Within days, Rappe would be dead from a ruptured bladder, and the finger of blame would point squarely at Arbuckle. The primary accuser in the case was Maud Delmont. Though initially regarded as a close friend of Rappe, Delmont's testimony quickly became central to the case against Arbuckle. She claimed that Arbuckle had violently assaulted Rappe, leading to her injuries and eventual death. According to Delmont, she heard screaming from the room where Arbuckle and Rappe were, and when she entered, she found Rappe in severe pain, accusing Arbuckle of having hurt her. Delmont's story was dramatic and seemingly damning. She described Arbuckle as heavily intoxicated, using his physical size to overpower the much smaller Rappe. Delmont painted a vivid picture of an assault that led directly to Rappe's death, implying that Arbuckle's actions had caused her fatal injuries. However, Delmont's background cast serious doubt on her testimony. She was a known blackmailer with a criminal history, having been involved in several scandals where she extorted money from men by placing herself in compromising situations. Her personal and criminal history severely undermined her credibility as a witness, and this became a key factor in the defense's strategy during the trials. If the courtroom was where justice was supposed to prevail, the newspapers were where Arbuckle was truly put on trial. The case attracted massive media attention, especially from William Randolph Hearst's newspapers, which thrived on sensationalism. Headlines exaggerated the details of the case, painting Arbuckle as a villain who represented the worst excesses of Hollywood. The press continually reported on every salacious detail, often without verification or care for the truth. The public's thirst for scandal seemed insatiable, and as a result, Arbuckle's guilt became a foregone conclusion in the eyes of many, long before the trial even began. The press's coverage of the case was not just misleading, but at times outright false. Reporters would twist witness statements or rely on hearsay to craft more dramatic narratives. Rumors spread that Arbuckle had used a Coke bottle to assault Rappe, an entirely fabricated claim that was repeatedly debunked, but continued to circulate. The court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict, and it wasn't in Arbuckle's favor. 3 trials and an acquittal. The legal proceedings against Arbuckle stretched over 3 separate trials. The first trial began in November 1921 and ended in a hung jury, as did the second trial. The third trial, held in March 1922, finally led to Arbuckle's acquittal. In each trial, the prosecution struggled to present a cohesive and credible case against Arbuckle, largely due to the unreliable nature of the key witnesses. The defense, led by attorneys Gavin McNabb and Frank Dominguez, focused on dismantling the credibility of Delmont and other witnesses. They highlighted the inconsistencies in Delmont's account and pointed out that Rappe had a history of health issues, including chronic bladder problems, which could have contributed to her death. Furthermore, medical experts testified that the cause of Rappe's ruptured bladder was unlikely to have been the result of any trauma, particularly of the kind Delmont alleged. In the final trial, the jury deliberated for just 6 minutes before returning a unanimous not guilty verdict. Not only was Arbuckle acquitted, but the jury also issued a formal statement of apology, stating, "A great injustice has been done to him. We feel that a grave wrong has been done." They praised his conduct throughout the ordeal and condemned the media's treatment of the case. Roscoe, Fatty Arbuckle's wife, Minta Durfee, was vocal in her support of her husband throughout the scandal and trials. She consistently maintained his innocence, asserting that he was wrongfully accused. The rotund actor had such close friends as Buster Keaton, Marion Davies, Eddie Cantor, and George Arliss. He was well liked, and both Chaplin and Keaton gave interviews attesting to Arbuckle's good nature and innocence. The Fatty Arbuckle trial, often labeled as one of Hollywood's greatest scandals, captivated the nation in the early 1920s. It was not just the shocking nature of the accusations that gripped the public, but also the way in which the entire event was manipulated by sensationalized media coverage, unreliable witness testimonies, and deeply rooted biases against the entertainment industry. Arbuckle, one of the silent era's most beloved comedians, saw his career and personal life dismantled piece by piece as the story unfolded, despite his eventual acquittal. The fallout. Despite the acquittal, Arbuckle's career was in ruins. The scandal had become too large, and the damage to his reputation was irreparable. Paramount Pictures, which had been so heavily invested in Arbuckle before the incident, immediately cut ties with him. His films were pulled from theaters, and many of his industry peers distanced themselves from him. The trial and its aftermath had a profound impact on Hollywood as a whole. It became a symbol of the excesses of the entertainment industry, and the public's moral outrage over the case contributed to the establishment of the Hays Code in the early 1930s. This code set strict guidelines on the content that could be shown in films and was an effort to clean up Hollywood's image in the wake of scandals like Arbuckle's. For Arbuckle, the years following the trial were difficult. He tried to return to filmmaking, but the stigma attached to his name made it nearly impossible. While he did direct a few films under the pseudonym William Goodrich, he was never able to regain his former status. The incident had forever tarnished his legacy, and despite the not guilty verdict, many in the public continued to believe in his guilt. In June 1933, he signed a contract with Warner Brothers for a full-length motion picture. Celebrating with his friends that evening, Arbuckle declared, "This is the best day of my life." Later that night, he died in his sleep of a heart attack. He was 46. On Sunday, September 18th, thousands of mourners gathered outside Strother and Dayton Mortuary in Hollywood to pay their respects to Virginia Rappe, while the Los Angeles Times estimated 3,000 attendees and the San Francisco Examiner claimed the number was as high as 8,000. The mortuary staff kept a more precise count, with nearly 4,000 people filing past Rappe's open casket. Among the mourners was actress Mildred Harris, a strange wife of Charlie Chaplin, who arrived to honor her late friend. Harris had sent a bouquet of roses, lilies, and orchids, which were placed in Rappe's hands. After kneeling in private prayer by the casket, Harris felt that Rappe deserved more than a simple burial shroud. She returned later with a white evening gown. Virginia Rappe's life and tragic death are often overshadowed by the scandal surrounding Arbuckle's trial, but her story is worth examining. Born in Chicago in 1891, she moved to San Francisco as a young woman and quickly gained recognition as a model. Her engagement to dress designer Robert Moskowitz ended in heartbreak when he was killed in a streetcar accident. Rappe then moved to Los Angeles, where she pursued a career in film, appearing in several movies directed by Fred Balshofer, including Paradise Garden and Over the Rhine, which earned her the title of Best Dressed Girl in Pictures. By 1919, she was engaged to director Henry Lehrman and starred in multiple productions under his direction. Despite her promising career, Rappe's untimely death at just 30 years old ensured that she would be remembered primarily as a tragic figure. Her burial at Hollywood Forever Cemetery alongside her fiancé Henry Lehrman serves as a lasting testament to her brief life. To this day, her ghost is said to haunt the cemetery, a somber reminder of a career and life cut short by scandal. The truth behind the trial. The truth of what happened on that fateful day in September 1921 will likely never be fully known. The accounts of those present at the party varied widely, and the passage of time has only served to obscure the facts further. What is clear, however, is that the Arbuckle trial was more about public perception and the media's power to shape a narrative than it was about determining guilt or innocence. The case was riddled with inconsistencies from the start. Maud Delmont, the primary accuser, never actually testified during any of the trials. Her statement to the police was the foundation for the charges, but her credibility was so thoroughly undermined that the prosecution chose not to put her on the stand. Other witnesses gave conflicting accounts, with some even admitting that they had been coached by the prosecution. Moreover, medical evidence presented during the trials suggested that Rappe's death may have been caused by a pre-existing condition. Dr. Arthur Beardsley, who examined Rappe before her death, testified that she had suffered from chronic cystitis, an inflammation of the bladder, which could have contributed to the rupture. This theory was supported by the fact that Rappe had complained of bladder issues in the days leading up to the party. Yet these facts were often overshadowed by the more lurid and scandalous elements of the case. The press focused on Arbuckle's size, insinuating that his physical bulk had somehow contributed to Rappe's injuries, despite the lack of medical evidence to support this claim. The notion that a beloved comedian could be involved in such a sordid affair was too compelling a story to resist, and the media played a significant role in shaping public opinion against Arbuckle. Conclusion: the Fatty Arbuckle trial serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of sensationalism and the destructive power of the media. While Arbuckle was ultimately acquitted of all charges, the damage to his life and career was profound and lasting. The case exposed the fragility of fame and the ease with which public perception can be manipulated. Arbuckle's story is a reminder that the truth can sometimes be obscured by the very institutions that claim to seek it. The media's role in shaping the narrative of the trial, combined with the unreliable testimony of key witnesses, ensured that the real story of what happened to Virginia Rappe remains a mystery. In the end, Arbuckle's greatest crime may have been being in the wrong place at the wrong time, with the wrong people watching.